When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous. About the past and about the future.
Hello all, welcome back to Draftvice. My name is Walter, and you probably know that because you've seen this or listened to this before. If you haven't, well, welcome. My name is Walter, and today's episode, we're talking fantasy football. We're talking wide receivers, the top 40, all throughout my ranks. But the ranks, by the way, are at Draftvice_football on Instagram. They will also be up on Draftvice.com. That is the name of the website. There's no porn on there, at least not as of yet, until it gets hacked again. It has not been hacked at all, actually. So, and today we're doing the top 40 receivers. And if you want, you can follow the podcast at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of laugh. Punch like a delicious drink you drink in the summer. And now, for the ranks. The top 5, I think, are very easy, right? I think they're the easiest of easy. I think everybody's got the top 5 receivers in fantasy football for this year, I believe, will be Michael Thomas, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and Tyreek Hill, right? So you might be like, Walter, I'm not gonna waste your time. I think you guys already know all those guys are great, right? Michael Thomas, safest wide receiver in fantasy, it feels like. He had 100 points more last year in ESPN leagues than the wide receiver 2, right? That means the second best wide receiver needed to get another 100 points just to be just a tie with Michael Thomas for the season. So right there, and he did it with Breeze. He did it without Breeze. He's just the best. He, at least for fantasy, he is. We'll talk about another guy who I think is truly the best. But number 2, right? Now, the only part about these top 5 was really what order do you put them in, right? And for me, number 2, I fought with myself on it. I know DeAndre Hopkins, Davante Adams, Julio Jones. Which one should be number 2? And I put Davante Adams. Here's why, right? He didn't play from weeks 5 through 8. Injury affected Adams early on. And like none of I understand going with DeAndre Hopkins here. I really do, right? You know, the best part about DeAndre Hopkins, we've seen him do it before with bad quarterbacks. Now he's got Kyler Murray, a not bad quarterback. He had, yes, Deshaun Watson was not a bad quarterback, but remember there were days where he had Ryan Mallett, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Fitzpatrick. All guys who have been salvageable for fantasy. The only guy who he couldn't do anything with was Brock Osweiler because he would throw the ball 17,000 feet above sea level. And that was, that just doesn't work when you're at sea level. That's only in arenas that were at sea level, though, by the way. So Hopkins, we've seen him work as well. There's always that risk of inconsistency of going to a new team, building chemistry with your quarterback. Either way, I think you're safe whether you do Davante Adams at 2 or you had DeAndre Hopkins as your 2. Doesn't really matter. They're both really good. Davante Adams, I feel like the real issue was he was injured last year. If he had played the whole season, I think we'd be talking about him as like it wouldn't be even a question mark. Now, there is the question of could he get injured again. That's totally true. It's happened before. It could happen again. It is the NFL. People do get injured. But you have Aaron Rodgers, best receiver, and pretty much like the receiver. Like everybody else in that receiving course, kind of questionable, right? Like MVS, right? Marquise Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard, like the receiving core. Now the running backs, are going to be getting a lot of catches too. And listen, I like them, and that's why I like Aaron Jones. But I think that kind of established. We don't need to spend too much time. Julio Jones also, I think you can maybe make an argument for number 2. I kind of worry about him being older. He was wide receiver 3 last year. So after those top 3 guys, I have Julio Jones. 8 games last year with 15 or more points, 13 games of double-digit points, never had a game below 7.2 points. So, and this is in NFL.com's fantasy scoring. So, 6 TDs last year, 1,394 yards, 99 receptions. Again, I feel like the only worry I have with Julio Jones is he's just getting older. The times are changing. There's going to be a new guard, but I feel like he's still got one more really good season in him. He could easily be the number 1 receiver next year. So all these top 5 guys clearly are all, number 1 receiver category. They could easily be the number 1 receiver in fantasy football. Number 5 is Tyreek Hill, right? Reek, the guy who just has all the speed in the world. He was good last year, right? He had an injury, right? That's why you didn't get to see him for a good portion of it. But the thing was, when he came back, he missed 4 of the first 5 games. But like when he came back, he had 5 games of 15 or more points, 4 games of over 20 points, and 1 game over 30. He had 2 single-digit games. One of those was the game where he got hurt. So basically, like the previous worry I always had with Tyreek Hill was he could be inconsistent because he's the deep ball guy. Yes, you get a little bit of him as like a gadget guy in the run game, but really like you were hoping for big plays. With Pat Mahomes, you're getting big plays on a weekly basis. But also, last year, I think, even though, you kind of got screwed with the injury, right? Broken clavicle's a big deal. I think that there's enough there where you say, okay, well, the other 10 games he was back, he was really good. He was reliable. So I definitely believe in I don't believe in his off-field conduct, but I believe he is a solid top 5 receiver in the NFL. This is the thing where I've come down. So if you don't know how I do my rankings, right? I should just do like an intro to my rankings in the beginning of the episodes. I basically do my rankings multiple times, blindfolded with my hands tied behind my back sometimes. No, I'm kidding. Sometimes strapped naked to the front of a Chrysler. Joking again. So how I do my ranks is I sometimes will go over, I'll do film scores. For the first time I do my ranks, I do film scores. I go ahead and I look at last year's stats. I look at the film. I look at everything. I look at what they ate for breakfast the morning of last June, just to see where they're standing on their breakfast, if you will. Then I go ahead, I do my ranks. Then I wait a couple weeks. I go ahead, I pull up a sheet of paper. I start doing my ranks again. And then for receivers, I did it 3 times because I didn't know if I did it a second time. So actually, I ended up doing it 3 times for receivers. And here's the thing. There really is a struggle outside of top 5 where you can make an argument for a ton of guys to be number 6, right? I could see somebody saying that Mike Evans, right, is a truly elite talent, should be there. I could see somebody saying Chris Godwin should be there because he truly was wide receiver 2 last year in fantasy, and he was wide receiver 2, and he didn't even play the whole season. So I could see an argument. Okay, no more Jameis Winston. He's catching the ball from Tom Brady. Not a horrible lateral move, I guess. And actually, I think a lot of people will probably think that Chris Godwin will be catching a lot of the easy passes, kind of more the slot guy where Mike Evans is the big outside guy, right? We're arguing about 2 Tampa Bay receivers. There's a couple of other guys who I think are potentially for, number 6th on the list. Please don't let my fandom ruin it for me, though, because I also consider possibly Odell Beckham at number 6. And part of the reason is Odell Beckham, before the last couple of years, was really good. And, listen, as long as he's healthy, which the problem was last year he wasn't healthy, he wasn't on the same script as Baker Mayfield, I think you can make an argument that he should be high, right? I think you can make an argument that OBJ, current status OBJ, who's still like in his mid-20s, should be a top-end receiver in the NFL, should be a top-end guy for fantasy. Now, the good question would be is, what if he has like the Stephon Diggs situation like last year? Although Stephon Diggs was solid last year, well, solid's probably not the best word to use it because he was kind of sucky last year for if you had him for like half a season. Thielen got injured, and eventually, like, Diggs got some real role. But I remember people were like, where do we throw out our Stephon Diggs stock, right? We're not talking about Stephon Diggs, though. We're talking about Odell. And last year, Odell was a wide receiver, too, in fantasy. You wouldn't believe it if you had him because you probably spent a first-round pick on him or a second-round pick on him. Still, I think Odell, I think Godwin. I understand Mike Evans. I mean, apparently Mike Evans is building chemistry with our boy Tom Brady, and maybe Tom Brady, Tom Brady's deep ball is not totally gone, so maybe they find ways of getting him the ball too. Mike Evans had a lot of those big explosion games, like he was wide receiver 15 last year, but he didn't play from 15 onward. Which I mean, when you hear the Godwin thing, or he didn't even finish the season, like I get he only played 14 games last year. I get the argument of like, oh, well, maybe it should be Godwin, maybe it should be Evans. I think where I'm ending up right now is I would feel way safer going with Godwin at 6. So I think that's where I'm going to lock it in right now. It's weird because that was like kind of like my almost like initial reaction. Or no, my second try ranks had Godwin at 6. Oh, actually had OBJ at 6 and Godwin at 7 was my second try. Mike Evans was at 6 on the third try, and I thought I had Godwin higher though too. And I think I had Mike Evans then Godwin. I had Mike Evans at 6 and Godwin at 7. Either way, the way I look at it right now, I think I'd probably be really comfortable getting Godwin. But always injury risk too. A guy got injured last year as well. A lot of these guys do have injury question marks. So I think I'd probably go with Godwin at 6, Odell at 7, Evans at 8. There we go. Right. And it's kind of that's actually where this grouping went. It was 6, 7, 8. Now there's one other guy in this who didn't make it to the 6th marker, but he was in the argument for 8 as well, and it's Amari Cooper, right? Mr. Amari Cooper. He was the grand big poopa. Amari Cooper is now at 9. There were renditions of my rankings that had him at 8. I think that's because I moved Odell up. Now, you could easily make the argument that Amari Cooper even could be considered 6th overall, but he had such weird inconsistencies last year, right? He would do really well for a set of games, and then and at one point I think I even had him at wide receiver 6, like in my first rendition of my notes, because I have some note in here about why do I have him at wide receiver 6, and now he's not been wide receiver 6 apparently since I actually did ranks. So Amari Cooper was wide receiver 10 last year. That was it. I thought he was better than that. He had 8 games with 15 or more points, 10 games with double-digit points. He also had 5 games of 20 or more points. But what's worrisome is he had 3 games with 2.4 points or less, which that kills you, right? Like 2.4 points from your lead receiver is just not going to get you very far. He had 1 goose egg game, and he had a couple of other a couple of 6.8 game, 6 to 9 point games. So games he didn't murder you, games where he didn't do you very well either. Because you always kind of want to shoot for the double digits, right? That's kind of where you're going, and you definitely don't want goose eggs. You don't want anything below 5. That's really bad. And that's kind of where I see Amari Cooper, is that you have that risk coming up with, he just disappears for a couple of games. He doesn't get you what you were looking for. So that's why I have him below the Tampa Bay guys and OBJ. Even though you can make the argument OBJ did not do great last year either. He was way below Amari Cooper in ranks. But maybe I'm biased as a Browns fan, right? I'm just looking at it going okay. But there were arguments that there were some real problems in that offense last year. OBJ was injured. There's also an argument about your second year in the system, your second year with the QB. You guys learn the intricacies of playing with each other. I just truly think OBJ is going to be an amazing receiver this year. So we'll move on, right? After Amari Cooper at 9, we are now at 10. And overall, the guy who's been making it to 10 on this list after repeat tries has been Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. One of the reasons why I don't have him any higher is I do get a little worried with Allen Robinson, not because of the injury. I was high on him last year. My first rendition of these notes, I think I had him close to 9. But yeah, so we'll have him at 10. He's back. He's the true Allen Robinson, the one that made Blake Bortles look semi-good and functioning. Now he gets Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, the combo rendition that it is. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the quarterback core there, but he had Mitch Trubisky last year. He was fine. 1,147 yards, 7 touchdowns on 98 catches. Can he do better? Can he do the real reason why I don't have him any higher is with his QB situation. I don't think he's doing better than wide receiver 10, right? He could, I guess he could, but I don't know if he can. And he is the guy who made Bortles look competent. And he's definitely a solid top 12 receiver in fantasy. I just don't think I could move him any higher knowing his quarterback situation. I think originally this is where I had Odell Beckham was 10. I was 10. So as you go and as you kind of start falling in love with your thoughts, that's where this went. I fell in love, put him up a little bit higher. So that's the top 10, right? Outside of the top 10, it comes number 11 is Calvin Ridley, and he's literally top 10. He's been number 11 on every single rendition of my ranks. I like Calvin Ridley a lot. He is actually, I think, just another, like, literally every time I've done these ranks. He was wide receiver 25, playing through injury all year. Oh, no, that was Odell. He was wide receiver 25 last year, playing through injury last year, played through every game. But Odell, okay, let me just touch on Odell real quick. Odell had 12 games at double-digit points, 4 games of 15 or more, 4 games of single-digit points. So there were like a couple of weeks where he might have hurt you, but again, he had solid weeks. He was not the guy who we were picking in the top 2 rounds. He did not get you all those 20-point games or 30-point games that you remember from the old Odell, where he was just breaking games. 11 is Calvin Ridley. He went on IR week 15. Up until that point, 9 weeks of double-digit fantasy points, 2 weeks of 7.1, a week of 6 points, and then he had 1 week where he kind of screwed you over, where it was like 1.6, and you were like, I can't start this guy no more. And you had to anyway. But yeah, so Calvin Ridley was very solid last year. He doesn't have Mohamed Sanu there anymore. He doesn't have Austin Hooper there anymore. So something tells me he's going to get a few more of those targets, because they're not all going to go to Julio. And he's good. I like watching. Solid route runner, decent hands, outside, inside. This is Amari Cooper. This is the other Amari Cooper, basically. I literally, I think the profiles were perfect when they came out. And there's a third guy who's an Amari Cooper as well. Like, in that same phylum of receiver, they just get open. That's what he does. He gets open when he's your second receiver. It's like a spoiling of riches, if you will. So Calvin Ridley's number 11. I'm going to just check. I think I've had, again, number 12's been pretty much the same guy throughout, too. Oh, no, one time I changed number 12, right? Number 12 for me is Cooper Kupp, right? Which is strange because you wouldn't think he would fall in that category of receiver where you're like, oh, I think this guy's going to be so great. I think he's going to be so good. He's a top 12 receiver, but he's been good. He's been really good. So, like, I don't know, I feel safe with him. He's like the new Jarvis Landry, right? He gets a lot of checkdowns, a lot of run after catch. McVay seems to scheme him up very well, getting matched up on linebackers in previous years. But again, just the second half usage compared to the first half is when he went on a tear. Wide receiver 4 last year, coming off an ACL, only had 1 game in the first 8 weeks under 10 points, then came back from the bye and did nothing against Pittsburgh. Followed it up with an 8 to 9 point bounce back. So yeah, and then bounce back for week 13 where he had double-digit points again. So towards the end of last year, like, he started out great. This is right off of the first half. He went on a tear. He was wide receiver 4, and yes, it kind of fell off a cliff, but even, like, you look at that, like, the playoff weeks, he kind of did come back a little bit. He did kind of kill you in the playoffs, though, too. There was that 1 week where it did not help. Either way, like, again, at wide receiver 12, I kind of like him because I know the system. Even with that weirdly bad offense that was like, weren't you better than this at some point? He's getting a lot of short stuff, too, so you're not really super worried. They do find ways of scheming him open. Him and Robert Woods, I think he's the better one out of the two of them. Now, there is a question, are they going to go more 2 tight end personnel, which is going to probably leave him out a little bit out of the cold because he was like their big slot guy. They were utilizing him more they were also utilizing him kind of almost like a tight end in the passing game. So there is an argument to say maybe this is not the year to be buying on Cooper Kupp. Maybe this is the year to sell on him because, like, you're not going to get him at that high value where, like, the previous years he was cheaper and he did really well. This year he's not cheap and he's come, and it might be a scheme shift. Either way, though, I don't know. I think it's just I couldn't imagine going a different route with him. I had, like, Thielen up this high before. I had Kenny Galladay up this high. It is a real question mark as to who should be number 11 here, or 12, where we're at. So I've also had I've had Adam Thielen here a couple of times too. So where's the third try? Third try I've had Adam Thielen. Actually, the second try and the third try I've had Adam Thielen actually come up before. Oh, I even had Adam Thielen before Calvin Ridley at some point. Adam Thielen. So let's talk about Adam Thielen, right? That sounds like the next guy who should be on this list, 13. He's in the same offense. He got injured, though, last year, folks. He did not do well for fantasy because he got injured at a certain point. But before he got injured, he did really well. Solid route runner. No longer has Diggs, though, to take away that coverage. Actually, I think Thielen's going to be one step below. He's going to be 14. I have one guy who's going to come up ahead of him, and I'm so mixed on this, but I think it's got to be Kenny Golladay. And that's because if Stafford's back and fully healthy and has a solid offensive line, I feel comfortable with Matt Stafford and Kenny Golladay and that connection and the deep ball. So, and we saw it. We saw Kenny Golladay be good last year. So I'm not. He was wide receiver 9 last year. I always feel weird putting Golladay higher because I felt like he was always the discount king, right? He was just like there and he played well. So I'm always again between Thielen at I think I'd put Golladay at 13, Thielen at 14. I just feel like there's a bigger breakaway with Golladay, the deep ball. Yeah, and maybe that's the difference here, right? If you're doing PPR, maybe lean towards Thielen. If you're doing standard, like the true standard, then maybe you go like the true standard, like the true king of the north. Then maybe you go with Golladay because I really do feel like it's close here. I would maybe even put Golladay ahead of Cooper Kupp if we were talking about standard and no PPR. I love Golladay, but I think I subscribe to the mindset of like don't overpay. But he had 4 games in 17 weeks with single-digit points. That's probably why I don't want to have him any higher than 13 or 14. He had 8 games with over 15 points, 5 games with over 20 points. But the biggest headache, he had 3 games under 5 points. Not consecutively, so at least feel good with that. They weren't in a row. But there was like times where you got a little worried with Kenny Golladay, where you were like, shoot, I just lost because I had Kenny Golladay in the spot. So I think the thing with Thielen is that you're going to feel safe with Thielen, and Thielen's the only guy now. Now, you're hoping Justin Jefferson and Olabisi Johnson kind of step up a little bit. They're probably going to utilize a lot more of the 2 tight end sets as well. Thielen's a great route runner. There's probably not many better route runners in the NFL. He's very much of the more crisp, I'm going to make you think I'm going that way, and a dude cut on a dime, go the other direction. I'm waiting for the day he ends up either with Tom Brady as his quarterback or New England, because just like that's exactly the kind of receiver he is. So yeah, now after those guys, right? Kenny Golladay is at 4. Yeah, right. I keep switching. Kenny Golladay at 14 or Adam Thielen at 14. And like I said, I think it depends on your scheming system, on your point system. 15. Almost every rankings I've done this 15, I think, has been the same guy, or he's been 14 before too. I have DJ Moore at 15. He was wide receiver 16 last year. Weeks 1 through 6, 12 or more points at 5 of those games. He had 12 out of 17 weeks where he had double-digit points. That's pretty dang good. He didn't play week 17. Had 1 point. He did kind of goose egg it on week 16. So, but previous to that, his lowest was like 7.4, 8.6 points. So, again, DJ Moore is like a running back, good run after the catch guy. He's like, again, like you're throwing to a running back in a receiver's body, and he's good. And now, again, like I would be worried. I'm more worried about the deep ball guys with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. I think he's the perfect fit for Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, right? You get him the ball, he's going to get some run after catch. He hits hard, he moves hard. Now, granted, the way he runs, like I said, he's like a running back, right? And he's kind of like you have him and you try to utilize him to get the run after catch, and he's just brutal and he just muscles guys out. He's kind of like a Steve Smith Sr., which the guy who kind of anointed him, the next Steve Smith Sr. was Steve Smith Sr. I don't think he's any worse. He's not any worse off with his quarterback than who he had in Kyle Allen last year. I think Teddy Bridgewater can definitely get him the ball, and he's not the sole center focus point of the offense. So even if guys try to double cover him, there is a lot of speed there. They got Robbie Anderson, they got Curtis Samuel, they got Christian McCaffrey, and that's truly the guy everybody's afraid of. And you see if Ian Thomas takes a step forward too. So yeah, DJ Moore is 15. And again, he's been cycling around 14, 15 every time I've done these ranks. I actually think the next spot is the hardest spot that I've had to do so far because I think it's been changed. I think every time 16 comes in, And it could be Keenan Allen. It's been T.Y. Hilton. It's been Stephon Diggs. Let's see who, when I was originally doing notes, who came up as far as 16 goes. Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? So I don't want to put Keenan Allen super high. I put him like almost to like in the mid-20s before. I feel weird because Tyrod Taylor does not fit his skill set. So unless I don't truly believe in Herbert either. So I don't believe that, like, because I don't believe in the quarterback situation. He no longer has Phillip Rivers. I'm more in, like, I remember Jarvis Landry with Tyrod Taylor being the quarterback, and it just wasn't great. So what happens when they move on from him? I don't think it's going to be a high-octane offense. So I just don't think that I would feel very comfortable with him. T.Y. Hilton, it's another guy who's changing quarterbacks, but we've seen him be solid before, at least. He's had injury-ravaged seasons, though, like the last few years. Only played 10 games last year. You do worry about him. And who else? I've had Jarvis Landry at 16. I feel weird with him coming off the hip. Stephon Diggs I've had at 16. He had a weird year last year, but it sounds like he's getting along really well with Josh Allen. 16's been a really weird one to stick together. Oh, I don't know. All three of those guys are very this is like after you get to 15, I could see Juju Smith-Schuster here. I think that's the crux of it, right? It's the guys who did not hit last year who you're like, all right, maybe they didn't hit, or maybe they're coming back. There's some reason why you're afraid of them, right? Juju Smith-Schuster with Ben Roethlisberger. Is Ben Roethlisberger going to be back, or is it going to be back with Mason Rudolph? Because, again, that was a horrible situation last year for Juju. We believe that's going to be Ben Roethlisberger, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with Juju going into this year. Keenan Allen, I don't feel comfortable with Keenan Allen. I think out of these guys, I feel much safer with Stephon Diggs and T.Y. Hilton and Juju Smith-Schuster. So I think I just feel so weird with Stephon Diggs catching the ball from Josh Allen. But you know what? Let's do it. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs at 16. 17 is going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. 18 is going to be T.Y. Hilton. And T.Y. Hilton, I could definitely see myself put him higher than this too. And then 19 is going to be Keenan Allen. I love Keenan Allen. And then 20 is going to be Jarvis. Because I don't know where else you could, like Jarvis. I might even put Jarvis a little bit lower because, again, I feel worried with the hip, but he's been good with the Browns. So I don't feel horrible with him at 20. Tyler Boyd, it comes in at 21. Right. And then Brandon Cooks and Devontae Parker at 22 and 23. Right. So, and the reason why I like Tyler Boyd in that system, he might, he's kind of the Cooper Kupp of the Bengals offense, right? The Cooper Kupp / Robert Woods of the Bengals offense. He was solid last year. He performed without A.J. Green there. He was literally the focal point of the receiving core. Yes, A.J. Green, man. I got to figure out where I'm putting A.J. I've had A.J. Green at 17. I've had him at 20. I've had him at, like, another weird one because, like, again, if he comes back and he's at full health, do we know if he's coming back at full health? Do we know anymore? It sounds like it. Brandon Cooks, again, a guy who's on a new team. We don't know the target distribution for him. We don't know how they're going to utilize him. Is it, he's on the Need for Speed Texans, so I feel so weird with this. I really do. I feel weird with Brandon Cooks because I like Brandon Cooks. I think he's got to be in that range as well. So, after we do, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, Juju Smith-Schuster, T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, T.Y. Hilton. And then, like I said before, Keenan Allen. Then we follow him up. I almost kind of want Jarvis over Keenan. Yeah, I'll put Jarvis over Keenan Allen. It is Keenan Allen I feel so weird with. So, yeah. Tyler Boyd, again, he's catching passes from, superhero, the Tiger King himself, Joe Burrow. And So I do feel okay with Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green. I feel way more comfortable with Tyler Boyd, weirdly, than I do with A.J. Green, though. But I feel like A.J. Green has the higher ceiling. Brandon Cooks, Devontae Parker, they're all in this kind of fight for this from the 17 to the 24 spot. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with those guys. Probably like kind of rounding out the top 25-ish kind of guys. You have Cortland Sutton coming up, Emmanuel Sanders. Because Emmanuel Sanders has been good, man. He's been, a wide receiver too, pretty much solidly. Last year, did it coming off an Achilles, right? Robert Woods is coming up too. Like, how do you deal with Robert Woods? He's a solid guy. He's an okay route runner, pretty solid at route running, very good hands. But like, he's not special. There's not like anything I see with Robert Woods that's special. Jamison Crowder's another one who's like good, really decent hands, solid route runner. I don't think of anything special. So. Again, I come down to I see, like I said, Cortland Sutton. You're hoping he takes a step forward. He didn't have great chemistry with Drew Lock last year. I feel a little bit more worried about Cortland Sutton, so I have him like 26th on my list right now. I have Terry McLaurin at 25. This is the problem with having 3 lists. Is I've gone through. I think receiver is the hardest one to gauge where you feel like, and because I've done these 3 different lists. I feel I feel the most consistent with some, like, I don't know, like it's such a weird thing. But so DJ Chark, I like his chemistry with Minshew. I think he's a guy who's going to be a solid wide receiver too this year. Honestly, it's the real trick to fantasy football is find the wide receiver twos. If you're lucky, you get a wide receiver 1. That's amazing, right? Like that's why like Odell. Like if you're lucky and you get Odell at the end of the second round or in the beginning of the third, like if you have like one of those picks, man, you got lucky. Yeah. So I feel fine with Terry McLaurin. I'm feeling better. I was so worried with Terry McLaurin going into this year because like he's going to have Dwayne Haskins throwing the ball. It sounds like Dwayne Haskins is like like you're seeing a little bit more development from him. My worry is the offensive line. I feel like that kid's going to be under pressure all day long. But he has a good chemistry with Terry McLaurin. They've been together forever. I hope they stay together forever. I really do hope for Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin's sake that they stay together forever and that Dwayne Haskins turns into a decent quarterback. We don't know as of yet, but it sounds like that could work. Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is kind of more the guy who, if you're shooting just to hit a double, he's going to be your double. And he's going to catch the balls from Drew Brees. People are going to be focusing a lot more on Michael Thomas because he just dominates the NFL anyway. Triple coverage, it doesn't matter. He'll just dominate you. He's just big, strong, and he can get open. So when you have a guy like that on the other side, now you have Emmanuel Sanders, who can also get open, catch some balls from Drew Brees. Feel very comfortable with him. Jamison Crowder is kind of like that's another one that's kind of like hitting the double kind of situation where I feel safe with him. Not always in love with where I'm getting him and all that. So, dude, this is how low I've had Keenan Allen at some points. I've had Keenan Allen at 29 at one point. This kind of scares you a little bit. Tyler Lockett is in this category. You might think, like, Tyler Lockett, he did really well. He had some very big blow-up weeks. And Tyler Lockett is weird in my book, right? Compared to guys like, Sutton who at least, like, I don't know. With Tyler Lockett, he had a lot of big boom weeks, and then he had like quite a few bust weeks, and that's why I feel like very weird with him. Right? He was wide receiver 13 last year. He had 10 double-digit games, 9 games with over 15 points, 3 games with over 20 points, and 2 over 30. So he had like these huge boom games, right? Most production came from week 1 through 9. And then week 10 on, he had 2 games over 10 points. I feel weird with Lockett. He is the biggest boomer bust guy. He reminds me of like the Deshaun Jackson years. He had a 0 game and a 2.2 game, as well as 2 other games with 5.6 or below. So you're talking about like multiple bust weeks. Don't get me wrong. He's fast. He's a good route runner. I actually do like his game. And now he's in an offense where he's actually probably the slowest of the 3. That's crazy to think about. Between DK Metcalf and Philip Dorsett. Still, I always feel weird. I never trust Tyler Lockett. I don't think I've ever drafted Tyler Lockett. I don't know if I've ever had Tyler Lockett on my team, especially not as a high pick. So I get it. He's kind of the lead receiver there, but I just feel weird with him. He'll be that guy who for a few weeks will just blow up and then go into Nowheresville. After Tyler Lockett, I have A.J. Brown, right? And I've had A.J. Brown as high as, 21, 22. And I have him as low as 29 in a few spots. No, I never had him 20. He was wide receiver 21 last year. For some reason, I only have him as 28. But part of that is guys come back. Like A.J. Green was not counted in this fiasco last year. So I have him at wide receiver 28 in a lot of my ranks, 29. And I like A.J. Brown. I think he's kind of reminds me of a Des Bryant kind of guy. Very big, muscular, strong, and just catch the ball and go with it. I really do like him. I think he's developed a good chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. He came on towards the end of last year. Again, like I said, wide receiver 21. He had some serious run after catch. His usage from weeks 1 through 10 were kind of questionable, would fluctuate. But after Tannehill came in, man, he was something else. Week 11 on one single-digit game. The rest were 15 points or more. Strong trend. He's a future wide receiver 2 or higher in my notes. Again, when he played the Texans, showed some good run after catch, good ability to get open in scramble drill in the red zone. He great hands, physicality. I think is solid route runner. Like I had him in the 7. I actually had for my grades. I'm looking at him. His speed's not all there. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but solid run after catch, really good in the red zone, good at getting open. Originally I think I had him above Robert Woods at one point. I think my first rendition when I was doing my notes, I kind of liked him over Robert Woods because maybe I still do, but. Because I see the ceiling with A.J. Brown, right? I see what he can do. I think he's actually kind of a lot like Juju Smith-Schuster. I think that's kind of what he reminds me of. So, if you're high on Juju, you might be high on A.J. Brown. They're kind of very similar, muscle through guys kind of style. So, next guy on the list that I wanted to talk about, and this list will be up on the Instagram. It'll be up on the Draftvice website, which is at draftvice.com. And, I'll post the link to it on the Facebook. But those are the primary resources. So go follow the podcast on Draftvice_football on Instagram. And also, check out the website. Or don't check out the website. It's totally fine. I think some other guys. I'm just going to touch on a few other guys to talk about, and then I'll touch on the rest tomorrow. DK Metcalf, wide receiver 33 last year, had 11 double-digit games, 4 games over 15 points. This guy's got speed. He's literally Josh Gordon, I think he's just the remake with no weed. He's like a non-stoner, no Jay and Silent Bob, but no marijuana film. I have him. He's wide receiver 33 last year. In most of my ranks, I think I've had him at 32, 33. Actually 34, 32, 33. So, again, I'll post my true ranks up online. Marvin Jones has been a solid guy to pick up. DK Metcalf, Will Fuller. Will Fuller's the one I think is going to be the wild card, right? Michael Gallup as well. Michael Gallup's a hard one to figure out. He missed weeks 3 and 4, but he had 9 double-digit games, 5 single-digit games. He was such a... He was a solid player in fantasy. He was wide receiver 22 last year. Again, these are the guys, but I don't see them taking much of a step forward, right? I don't see Gallup being better than DK Metcalf this year because I also think I would rather target Metcalf if I'm would I take the guy catching balls from Russell Wilson who's going to go deep, or the guy who is catching balls from Dak Prescott who also has 2 other great weapons on that offense who are probably going to get way more targets. Jamison Crowder. I think he's going to be the solid guy to go ahead and grab. I think he'll be good. He's shown good chemistry with Sam Darnold. And are we close to the 40 marker on this? A couple of other guys to talk about. Corey Davis, Deontay Johnson, guys who've shown in the past, Preston Williams, Darius Slayton. I didn't really touch on Devontae Parker that much, even though I mentioned him already on the list. Let me pull up his... And I think the reason why is we forget about him. He's on the Miami Dolphins. That team did not look like what it really was. Like, he came on really strong at the end of last year. I remember, at points, people were calling him baby A.J. Green. I was calling him that for a bit. I've drafted him relatively high in other years. It really makes you question as to whether Gase and Tannehill were really that bad. He was wide receiver 11 last year. In 17 weeks, he had he had 5 games over 20 points, 9 games over 15. That means he was a true contributor to your offense. It was such a weird thing because it was like he finally looks like he's starting to get it. 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was a really good receiver last year. And he's actually kind of almost like a faster A.J. Green. So I do have questions with that team, the offense, the offensive line, the scheme, the strategy, Chan Gailey. But I think Gailey can probably get the ball in Devontae Parker's hands. Now, he's not really a run after, he's not really the guy who I would, I don't know, man. I feel weird because I feel like I've gone so long not believing in Devontae Parker, even though I've had years where I truly believed in Devontae Parker. I just wanted to touch on him. He's kind of more in the, let me pull that back up. Again, I've had Devontae Parker kind of in that top 20 range, but I wanted to touch on him because it was a player who I hadn't talked about very much, and so far this episode, I talked about Robert Woods, talked about John Brown, Jamison Crowder, Christian Kirk's an interesting one, right? I think he might pop up. He was wide receiver 38 last year, 3 games of. Out 3 games, 9 games of double-digit points, 5 games of 15 or more points. So he's been a solid guy, good route runner. He's showing a chemistry with Kyler Murray. I'm not again, and then the other thing is there a lot of these teams you question, is there room for this next guy, right? Who's the next guy? Who's the top guy? Is Larry Fitzgerald going to be the key in guy on this? I don't know. So, I think that's going to wrap it up. Will Fuller, I'm interested in. He's got that long speed. Deebo Samuel would be higher on this list, but he's been injured. He's been injured for a bit, so I question that one. So Corey Davis, we'll see if he bounces back. He said he had injury issues last year. And I think that wraps up this episode, right? That's all my kind of guys in the top 40. If you want, you can follow the podcast at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch like a delicious drink you drink in the summer. And I recommend go ahead and follow this on Draftvice and Draftvice_football, all that stuff. You know how it goes. Follow the podcast, follow the YouTube, follow me, follow you. And thank you. Tune in next time.
This morning I was feeling pretty dangerous about the past and about the future.